Welcome, fellow horror hounds, and welcome to the latest episode of Talk and Stalk, your unholy home for horror. I'm your host, Barry, and today's topic of discussion is going to be something a little different. I'm going to try and make this as short, as sweet as possible. It's going to basically be on my favourite performances, if you can call it that, of Michael Myers over the course of the Halloween franchise. And this will actually include the masks used. I'm going to take that into account as well. So the masks and the overall, because obviously, Michael Myers has been played by quite a few different actors. I mean, I use that term quite loosely, but we've had quite a few different Michael Myers over the course of this franchise. I'm not going to include any actors or whatever, stunt actors that have only been as Michael Myers in like one scene or a couple of scenes, like Jim Wyndburn, the stunt actor from the original, and Tony Moran that played the unmasked Myers in the original. So these are the guys that were basically Michael Myers during pretty much the entire movie. Okay. Alright, to kick this off now, at the bottom for me is Tyler Mane. Tyler Mane that played Michael Myers in the two Rob Zombie directed Halloween films. Now, I'm not actually a fan of the 2007 Halloween film. It was tolerable. I get that Rob Zombie tried to put his own stamp on this thing or whatever, but it just wasn't really a film that worked for me. And Halloween 2 I thought was atrocious. I thought that was terrible. But anyway, Tyler Mane to me was just too big. I mean, certainly he brings, a good level of intensity and brutality to the role. It's a Rob Zombie film, so at the end of the day, you're going to get, blood and guts, kind of substituted for kind of overall suspense. The film's very gritty, very grindy. It's pretty damn brutal. But that's not really what I particularly kind of want from a Halloween film. And don't get me wrong, Tyler Mane was perfectly fine in the role. I just thought he was too big. I mean, the guy's 6'8", and I know even John Carpenter said that he thought the guy was too big. I mean, this is a guy that was an ex-WCW wrestler. This is a guy that actually played Sabretooth in the 2000 X-Men movie. He's really big, and me personally, I prefer Myers to be kind of more of an average-sized guy. We'll get onto the original Myers soon anyway, but the original Myers, Nick Castle, was 5'10", just kind of an average build, average size, and Tyler Mane was just too big. Too big for me. So the next one on the list would have to be Don Shanks. Now, Don Shanks he played Michael Myers in Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, which is actually one of the weakest films in the entire franchise. I don't like it. I really don't like it. I think it's a terrible mask. Just to quickly actually get on back to the previous point, I did actually like the mask in Rob Zombie's Halloween. I did like it because the wear and tear, that kind of grittiness to it, I did actually like the mask in the 2007 film, that is. I absolutely hate the mask in Halloween 5. It looks very Alien-esque. It looks way too big. It just, yeah. Again, played by a bodybuilder, Don Shanks. He certainly doesn't have the height. He certainly has a build. He's a big physical presence. But yeah, he's certainly nowhere near as tall as what, 6'8" Tyler Mane was. But it kind of felt like already at this point in the franchise, they were kind of like making Michael Myers kind of the new Jason, like a Jason Voorhees type, a big bulking killer, and absolutely hate the mask. And I think the film's bad. Okay, next on the list would actually be George Wilbur, that, like Tyler Mane, has actually played Michael Myers twice. He played him in Halloween 4 and Halloween 6. Now, Halloween 4, I think, is okay. As a Halloween movie goes, it's certainly not the weakest, but it's certainly not one of the best. It's kind of in the middle part. But I hate the mask. I actually do hate the mask in this movie. Halloween 4 and Halloween 5 have the worst masks in the whole franchise, in my opinion. Now, George Wilbur, again, it's kind of hulking kind of presence, but you can tell it's certainly noticeable in quite a few scenes that he's actually wearing shoulder padding to try and make himself look bigger than what he actually was. And it's really noticeable. It's a little jarring at times. In Halloween 6, he actually has a better mask. I do actually quite like the mask, actually, in Halloween 6. Hate the movie. Hate the film. It's actually a strong contender for me as worst film in the franchise. I hate the whole convoluted, he Michael Myers is evil, he's being summoned by druid priests, blah, blah, and all that crap. Hated the movie. The mask itself is actually quite good, and the portrayal of Michael Myers, again, there's this Jason Voorhees kind of esque thing to him, where he's just, big, hulking, completely unstoppable at this point. But yeah. Okay, the next on the list is actually, I was very torn between these two, but the next on the list is Brad Loree from Halloween Resurrection. Now, I know Halloween Resurrection is a Halloween movie that is hated by many. I think it is. It is a pretty bad film. I don't actually detest it as much as some other people, but I really don't like it. For the simple fact of the film shouldn't exist. Because what Halloween H2O did was give us a perfectly satisfactory ending, which was great. Her decapitating Michael Myers, etc. The franchise is over. Halloween Resurrection came out 4 years later and just butchered, completely, excuse my language, just completely shat over everything that Halloween H2O just did. Giving this BS rubbish thing of, it wasn't Myers in the mask, and, he crushed the larynx of a paramedic, dressed him up in his costume and all that. I'd love to know how the paramedic set up just like Michael Myers after going through a windscreen though, but never mind. Halloween Resurrection shouldn't exist. It is a bad film. But I actually like the mask. I actually really like the mask in this film. I know some people hate it. I liked it, and I thought it was one of the better masks of the franchise. As for Brad Loree's performance, I thought he was perfectly fine. Nothing noticeable, nothing really kind of notable to it, but nothing that you could kind of look and think, he's terrible as Myers. Very slow, kind of zombified walk, if you will. But no, I thought, to be honest, kind of not a bad performance, actually. Not a bad performance at all as Myers. The movie itself, like I said, terrible, but I actually thought he made a pretty good Myers. The next one on the list would go to, now this is going to cause some controversy, I know, is Dick Warlock from Halloween 2, which is actually one of the best films in the franchise, and I do actually love The Mask. Dick Warlock, again, an average-sized guy, much like Nick Castle in the original. The mask is actually the same mask from the original, but it's actually dirted. It actually looks like it's a different mask, but it isn't. It's because Deborah Hill, that looked after the mask, well, that's the thing, she didn't really look after it. It was put under a bed, it got smoke all over it, it just wasn't maintained, it wasn't looked after at all. When Halloween was made, there was never any plans for Halloween 2. So it's got this really unkempt, dirty look, and that's the mask in Halloween 2. Dick Warlock, I thought, did a really good job as Myers. At the same time, he was a little bit too robotic for my liking at times. He was a bit too slow paced. Now, I think with some of the stalking scenes that go on early on in the film and certain scenes, he actually does a great job. But it was just that really slow, robotic walk that I'm not a fan of. I'm just not a fan of that. But overall, he was a really good Myers. I like the fact that he wasn't hulked up or anything like that. He's a normal-sized looking guy. And I thought overall he did a really good job. It's the kind of too slow for my liking. But like I said, Halloween 2 was a good sequel, I thought. I thought it did a good job of kind of following in the original's footsteps. I mean, like any kind of slasher movie sequel, there's more blood, there's a much higher body count and all that. Yeah. Number 2 would be Chris Durand from Halloween H2O. Sorry, this is third place. Chris Durand. Halloween H2O, I enjoyed it. It was very much kind of in the mould of Scream. If Scream wasn't the success it was, we probably wouldn't have got Halloween H2O. It certainly followed in that film's footsteps. I actually thought Chris Durand did a good job. I really liked Durand, actually. Now, admittedly, there is not one mask in this film. There's actually multiple masks. Now, for the close-up scenes, they used a certain mask. There's actually, I believe, a CG mask at one point in the movie, which looks completely and utterly terrible. But that's just literally one moment in the whole film. I noticed from certain long-distance shots, a different mask was used. And it's a little jarring, actually. It's a little jarring. Doesn't ruin the film, though. Doesn't ruin the movie in any shape, way, or form, in my opinion. But the close-up Myers mask that we generally get, it's not bad. I quite like The Mask, but it's really Duran's performance that I really like in this movie. There's a more naturalistic, organic kind of feel to Myers in this movie. Chris Duran's kind of I know that he's 6'2", but he's not an overly big bloke. He's not an overly massive guy, and there's kind of, like I said, a more naturalistic feel to the way that he walks, and the head tilt, and I thought overall that Chris Duran actually made for a good Michael Myers. I really like the kind of performance in this role where he does kind of get some of the mannerisms, the sit up and the head tilt, and he does a good job. Second place would be James Jude Courtney, the most recent Michael Myers, who I actually think is the best Myers since Nick Castle. Now, he's quite a good, big guy, quite height difference. He's 6'3". There's a physical presence, but he's not to the point of being huge. He's not, he's not a bodybuilder, or at least I don't think he is. He's quite he's naturally quite a big guy, but not to the point of being excessively big. But the most important aspect is, I really do like The Mask, which again is kind of like akin to the original, but it's weathered. And I like the attention to detail that they've actually got the hole in it from where Myers was actually stabbed through the neck with the Nick Needle by Laurie Strode in the original 78 film. So yeah, some good attention to detail there. I like The Mask, and I really like the performance, actually. There's a great level of intensity. He captures that kind of organic feel again of Michael Myers, where it feels like he is a man, he's not some robot. There's a certain scene in Halloween 2018, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what his performance is like in Halloween Kills. We can't call his performance because there's no talking, but it's kind of getting the movements and getting the, there is still a certain performance there, as limited as it may be. The scene in Halloween 2018 that I really love is where the camera follows him all the way up to someone's house. He goes in for the garage, he gets the hammer, bashes the woman across the hammer, and then he walks to the next house down the street, gets a knife. That whole kind of scene, that panning shot that we get of Myers, it's great. It's great, and it certainly evoked memories of Halloween 2, which I believe it was supposed to. This movie makes a lot of kind of callbacks to some of the original films. I thought James Jude Courtney actually made for a great Myers. I think he managed to do a good job. Like I said, there's a bit of a height difference between him and Nick Castle, but he brings that kind of Nick Castle performance back for a more modern age. Getting onto number one spot is Nick Castle. It's got to be the original Michael Myers. As people know, what I love about this original film is the emphasis on the suspense, and Myers actually spends the majority of the film actually stalking his victims. I love the head tilt moment, I love the sit-up, and as I said, there's just a very naturalistic, organic feel to the way that Myers moves. Nick Castle, 5'10", average-sized guy. John Carpenter actually told Nick Castle to actually just don't walk like a monster, just walk like a normal human being. And that's what Nick Castle did. But at the same time, he's got this naturalistic walk, but there's also an air of menace to it. So The Mask as well, the original and best, obviously started off as a William Shatner mask, and I'm sure you all know the story. They, picked up a William Shatner mask that was really cheap to buy. They widened the eye hole, spray painted it white, messed up the hair, and the look of Michael Myers was created, who's certainly one of the most iconic horror movie villains out there. I love The Mask. I love The Mask. That blank, expressionless face. And of course, this was actually, The Mask, the look was actually loosely inspired by Eyes Without a Face, that John Carpenter has actually cited that as an influence. Nick Castle, the original, the best, but James Jude Courtney, I think, has done actually a pretty good job of following in Nick Castle's footsteps. As I said, with the original Halloween and that, what I just love is it's just like the stalking that Myers gets down. Like when he's coming down the stairs after Laurie, he's walking across the street, Laurie's trying to get into the house. The sit-up, which has obviously become quite iconic among horror fans. There's just so many great moments of Myers in this movie. Nick Castle, definitely the original and best in my opinion. And that's it. That's my views. So yeah, that concludes today's episode. Thanks for listening. I'll be back again soon to haunt you, torment you, and do whatever else I want.